everybody. Welcome to Global Hack Week, API Week, and welcome to my session. This is the last session of day 4 of Global Hack Week. It's going to be on an intro to OpenAPI topic. And I'm super happy to see everybody tuning in from all over the world, from Italy, London, Michigan, Egypt, UAE, and India. That is wonderful. Thank you so much. If you haven't dropped your location, please do, looking at you, Varshini. Now, please make sure to check into this event. This is events.ml.io/events 13267. We want to make sure everyone gets their points for Global Hack Week. So if we look at the Global Hack Week schedule, as I mentioned, we are on day 4 right now. We have just gone through a whole day of amazing workshops and sessions, and I'm sure some of you have worked on awesome challenges and projects. Now we're wrapping up the day 4 with our intro to OpenAPI session, and here is the check-in link. So while everybody's checking in, I'm also going to be checking in. I will actually use my trusted Chrome DevTools MCP server to check it in for me, so that I don't have to do it myself. I did it at my MCP session last Global Hack Week. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I have installed GitHub Copilot already on this computer, on this Visual Studio Code. And I have also installed the Chrome DevTools MCP server. So if you're looking at it, you can actually do it yourself too later. But I don't recommend doing it right now since we're going to be jumping into our session soon. But I have installed both, and I'm going to just simply ask it to please check into my Global Hack Week event at boom using Chrome DevTools MCP. And in the meantime, if anyone has any questions whatsoever throughout this session, please feel free to drop them in chat. I would love to get some engagement or get any of your doubts answered. And as you can see here, Chrome DevTools MCP has opened up the browser for me. Where's my browser? Right here. And it's looking at the page, and it has just clicked it on the login and register button. I'm going to provide some information here, my email address, majorleaguehacking.com, and it's actually going to fill in my email address and click sign in for me. And now I just need to wait for the code that's going to be sent to my email address. Give it 1 second here, and just like that, it's here. And instead of typing it in, I can also just give it to the our trusted AI agent to check into our event for us. So I'm going to say, got the code, and have it check into the event. I'm sure all of you are faster than our Chrome DevTools MCP here. So once we get checked in, we can get started. Welcome everybody for coming into this stream. All right, thank you so much. It is amazing. I highly recommend you try it out for yourself afterwards using the Chrome DevTools MCP. And just like that, I am checked into the event. I am registered. It's not yet checked in. So let's see if it's able to figure out we still have to click the check-in button. All right, we're gonna do some more magic here, and we're gonna say allow. Please just click the check-in button. Okay, so it looks like the Chrome DevTools MCP is having some trouble. It was able to register. Oh, it just did it. So it has clicked the check-in button, and I am now checked in. Wonderful, wonderful. So give me a thumbs up or just type 1 if you have checked into the event. We want to make sure everyone gets their points for Global Hack Week. And as I mentioned in the Discord announcement, I will be sending out a surprise prize at the end of my next session, which is AI meets OpenAPI. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be fun. And thank you so much, everybody who have messaged me in chat for checking into the event. Wonderful. My name is Wei. I am a coach here at Major League Hacking. And a fun fact about me is I just came back last night from one of our MLH member event hackathons, Hack UMass 13. That is actually marks my 30th hackathon as an MLH coach. So I'm super, super proud of it and looking forward to going to more hackathons. And just to repeat, please check in so that you can get your points. Now, let's hop into our topic of the day, which is OpenAPI. What are we learning today? Here is a quick session plan of an overview. This is going to be pretty free-formed, interactive, so if you have any questions, please let me know in chat, or if you have any suggestions or feedback of what I'm doing on screen, we can definitely collaborate and make this a great session. So we'll first jump into a very basic overview of what is an API, and then we'll actually go into the OpenAPI specification. Afterwards, we will show you, we'll actually explore together, what are some examples of an OpenAPI compatible API using the best practices, how to use OpenAPI as a developer. I'm sure all of you, by participating at Global Hack Week and MLH member event hackathons, you have to had to connect with an API of some sorts in the past. So we're going to show you how you can do that with OpenAPI and how it can make your life easier. And then at the end, we're going to actually make our own API OpenAPI compatible and generate beautiful documentation. So other developers, when they try to use our application using our APIs, they will be able to very, very easily use it for the best developer experience. With that, can someone tell me in chat, what are some APIs that you have integrated in the past? What are some things that you have connected to? It could be maybe an API to get some data. It could be an API to interact with a third-party system, maybe with a LLM in the cloud. Tell me, what are some things that you have integrated with in the past using APIs? And in the meantime, let's actually hop into a very quick overview of what is an API. I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with this, so we'll just kind of brush up very, very quickly. API stands for Application Programming Interface. I'll actually send this link in chat, which is very, very useful. And these, they enable different applications, platforms, and systems to communicate and exchange data seamlessly. So this is actually a backbone of our modern software development to connect different systems. So here is a cool analogy. If you are a customer at a restaurant, you make the order, and the waiter or server takes the order and gives it to the chef to make the order. The chef then does whatever the chef does, gets all the ingredients, cooks the meal, and brings it back to the server, and the server delivers the food to the customer. So as far as the customer goes, when we go to a restaurant, we don't really care, or we're not really concerned about how the chef cooks our food, right? The only interaction point for us is the waiter. We tell the waiter, this is what we want, and then we get what we ordered. And that is a seamless exchange, right? Interaction. And the waiter and the chef, like the chef is concerned about how to cook the meal, how to get it presented perfectly, and then the waiter takes that order and comes back with the food. So that is, in a way, very, very similar, very great analogy for our modern day APIs. API is the middle layer between servers, server backend systems that do whatever they do. It processes data, stores data, and as far as the end user for application, they don't really care. Where is the data stored? Is it stored on a hard drive? Is it stored 1,000 miles away? Or if how it's organized. The only thing the end users are concerned about, like the browsers and the applications, is the application programming interface. All they have to do is they need to know how to send a request and how what response they'll receive. So that is a very quick analogy of APIs. And you may be asking, like, why do we really need APIs? Like, why can't we just kind of use talk to the servers directly, talk to the backend systems, talk to the chef directly? That is because it makes your interaction so much easier. You don't have to specialize, create like specialized instructions for every restaurant. Like every restaurant, there might be a different protocol, right? Different queue, different things like that. You don't have to worry about any of that. By using APIs, you actually get reusability, efficiency, scalability, integration, and automation. So those are all very, very great features of APIs. And looking in the chat, we have seen some amazing APIs that people have integrated with. So there is News API, that's very cool. Supabase has great APIs. Also, you can easily create applications along with APIs in Supabase. Google Maps API, if you want to query for geolocation, get map images, and all the other cool stuff. And more Google Maps API. And Quacker says, don't click on that, so I won't click on it. All right. With that, you may be asking, like, I know what API is. What is OpenAPI, and like, why is that important, right? So I'm going to share a second link over here. And right after this, we're going to be jumping into like a demo and showcase of all the different types of APIs out there. Question here, were we supposed to link our MLH to Twitch? You do not need to link your MLH account to Twitch. I don't think there's a way to do it. You can just watch the stream here and interact with us on Discord. And through Twitch chats, of course. Yes. Thank you for responding, jumping in there. All right, so what is OpenAPI? OpenAPI, formerly known as Swagger. It basically defines, there's a specification format that's used to define HTTP APIs. And it relies on JSON and YAML schema to describe API's underlying data. So we'll actually scroll down and take a look. If you have worked with APIs before, you will have experienced like differences in how different vendors or different API providers expose things and interacts with. You have to interact with their systems very, very differently. Sometimes it's very difficult for you as a developer to really kind of comb through all the different documentation and information to interact with an API. And that's the problem OpenAPI is here to solve. With OpenAPI, every API provider will publish a OpenAPI compliant or compatible specification of their API. So anyone can just pull that specification and they'll understand exactly what are some things that they can do. What are the API endpoints? What are the endpoints expecting as inputs, and what the endpoints are expecting or throwing out as outputs, maybe even errors. You can define all that information in OpenAPI so that anyone interacting with the OpenAPI, any API that's compatible with OpenAPI, will get full picture of what they are. So how does OpenAPI specification work? You can describe HTTP APIs in a very easy machine and human readable format. It will have information, general information about the APIs, like name and version of the API. It will have the description of APIs, operations, callbacks, webhooks. It will have information about how to authenticate to the API, and a lot of like reusable components, schema, parameter, and responses that can be shared. So this will make integrating with any API super, super easy and seamless. And here is just a quick structure of OpenAPI document. You really don't have to remember this very much because it will be automatically generated. So let's just take a look at some of the key components here. We have the OpenAPI version 3.1 is the latest. General information about the API, like, oh, what is the API for, the description. And here is the meat of the OpenAPI specification document, which is all the paths and endpoints available exposed from this OpenAPI. So in this case, we have an endpoint path called /books. So you can get a list of books, looks like, from this endpoint. And just kind of going into each section a little bit more here. The general section has what is the API name, version, description, and contact information about the API. Path is what we just talked about with the books path. We have some basic summary of what the endpoint is for, what parameters it take in, and what are some example responses. So in this case, you actually can retrieve a list of books. And next we have schema. So schema is like what defines, for example, a book. So a book has 4 properties: ISBN, title, author, price, and you can say this endpoint returns an array of books. So this makes it super easy and reusable. If you have another endpoint that returns 1 book, for example, you can just refer to this schema. You say /book, get, and the response will, instead of an array, it will actually just return 1 book. So you don't really have to write all of this by yourself because the OpenAPI schema should be able to get auto-generated, and you can just publish that and use it for your application. So you can see here what are the benefits of OpenAPI. You can create by hand. I don't recommend it. And they can be automatically generated from code. It is interoperable with all kinds of programming languages, platforms, SDKs, and clients. And it's very, very easy to collaborate. And I use this OpenAPI schema daily to interact with backend applications. So, hope I convinced you OpenAPI is a good thing. Now, let's take a look at some examples of OpenAPI compatible API. So what are some other APIs that everyone has used or experienced with? Can you drop them in chat? Like some of the ones I have worked with include Stripe API, Mailgun API to send emails, SendGrid to send emails. I have used Google Maps API, as some of you have mentioned. I have used APIs. What else? What else have I used? There are too many, so it's kind of a little bit difficult for me to pull them out right now. It's a little bit overwhelming. But GitHub API is another one. So thank you, Upside TV. Gemini API is indeed a great API, and you can interact with it directly from your application. Reddit API, yes. So we actually talked about Reddit in our last Global Hack Week. So let's take a look. Reddit API, and I don't know if they have OpenAPI compatible API documentation, so let's look it up. So it looks like Reddit does not provide an official OpenAPI specification, unfortunately. It would be really nice. You can see a lot of the developers are desperately asking for it to make it easy. So without an OpenAPI specification, I'll just show you like how a regular developer, like without the power of OpenAPI, will access documentation. So they'll actually come in here to each vendor's specific documentation page, look through the endpoints. Okay, so how do I authenticate? For example, I'll have to look here. What are some available endpoints? So this one, then I have to, actually try to assemble the endpoints myself, figuring out how to authenticate and make the requests. So that's kind of quite painful, actually, especially when you're working with so many different endpoints that are available on Reddit. It is a huge hassle to like actually comb through, and what's more is like you have to also understand what are some responses, what are some fields that are returned, and you have to kind of figure them out by just by looking at it and hard coding them in your application. So that is not the best practice for exposing an API. It is very nice they have the documentation page, but if they could create an OpenAPI compliant specification document, that would make it even better. So one API I wanted to show that has very good practice is Stripe API. As you know, Stripe is a financial services company that handles payments. Can you give a brief idea of how Reddit API doc can be easily? I will show you an example of a OpenAPI compatible API, and I'll show you exactly how to use it and how much easier it is to use. So for example, Stripe has a great API. We can search for OpenAPI, and you can see they actually publish their OpenAPI specification here. So anybody who wants to use their OpenAPI specification will be able to automatically include this in their applications. Let me see, OpenAPI spec3.json. It's a huge file, but the machines can read it, right? So I'm going to show everybody a API client. Some of you might have used Postman. How many of you have used Postman before? Type Postman in chat if you have heard of Postman before. Postman is a application that started off with as open source, where you can connect APIs, define APIs, and experiment with APIs. But today, yeah, some of you have heard of Postman before, but they have commercialized, and you have to sign up for an account and everything to use. So I want to propose another open source alternative, which is called, what is it called actually? That is not good. Postman open source alternative, and you'll see a few different options here. And today we're actually going to be using a very popular open source project called Bruno. So there are a couple other ones that you can experiment with, but we'll use Bruno. It is an open source API client, and what's more is it supports OpenAPI specification. So we're gonna go ahead and search for Bruno, use Bruno. I'll paste the link here. Oh, nice. How's your experience using Insomnia? Does it support OpenAPI? I would love to hear your experience. Postman is great. Yes, thank you for your messages here. Today we're going to be using Bruno live on stream here, and oh, it looks like they even have a VS Code extension for it. That's pretty nice. So I'm just gonna download the desktop client for now. For me, I'm going to, maybe I'll just use Homebrew. No, I'll just install it like this. Mac Apple Silicon Portable. And I'm hoping my internet, 17 minutes. That is not looking good. What's up with my internet? I'm hoping it will speed up, but that is not looking good at all. Quick question in the chat here. Is there any difference in using Homebrew and download? Homebrew makes it a little bit easier for you to manage all the packages and upgrade all the packages in one go. Download is like installing the application directly into your system, which is fine as well. So there's not too much practical difference. Another question in chat. I'm not sure. It seems to support most of what Postman supports. Exactly. So that's why I'm actually moving towards Bruno, just because Postman requires me to kind of sign up for an account and everything. It's really gotten a little bit more commercialized. And yeah, here's the Bruno versus Postman blog post right here. Yep. And very cool. What's very cool is, well, this is the main reason, right? With Postman, you have to log in and you have to, be online to use it. And Bruno is completely local. You don't have to sign up for an account, and it's fully open source. And there's no limit. You can see like Postman even charges money for like too many collections now. So we're gonna use Bruno. And it looks like it's going to take forever to download. Maybe I should switch over to my hotspot, actually. That's probably going to be faster. We have another question in chat. Is Homebrew the same as pip in Windows? Homebrew's pip is for Python, right? For Python packages. So for Homebrew specifically, I think it's called winget in Windows. Yeah, so the alternative for Homebrew in Windows is winget, Windows Package Manager. So if we look at download, Windows, okay, it looks like Bruno supports multiple package managers. So winget is one of them. You can also use Choco and Scoop. You are so very welcome. So I might have Bruno installed. Oh, I already have it installed. Why am I downloading? Okay, stop. Done. We're going to open Bruno. That makes it easy. And we're going to import collection. So this is the Bruno interface, as you can see here. And all you have to do is import collection. If you have an OpenAPI schema, you can see Bruno is very, very powerful. It supports their proprietary Bruno format, Postman collections, Insomnia, or OpenAPI v3 formats, right? So let's say we want to integrate with Stripe API. All I have to do is copy the spec URL and paste it in the import collection prompt here and click import. Import. And I can pick a location. I want to save it. I want to import this to sample API output, Stripe API. Open, import. And just like that, on the left-hand side, you can now see, let me just make it a little bit bigger here, a Stripe API collection. And it comes with all the different available endpoints that's possible on Stripe API. So if I just click on so I need to do authentication, of course, in order to connect with Stripe API. But here I can just show you, like, okay, we have this endpoint, and we can take a look at all the parameters that it takes in. We have this endpoint, and you can see all the variables that we need to send in the body for this endpoint. So you can literally very, very easily, in a unified interface, explore any OpenAPI compatible endpoint. So here you can see there's like tons and tons of endpoints here, and they're all documented. So any endpoint that you click on, create a location, you'll see all the available parameters that you get in, and you also see all the available parameters that comes out. So the application can actually use this endpoint very easily. So compare this to Reddit's documentation. It is a very nice documentation, don't get me wrong, but if you have 10 Reddits, 10 APIs you're going to integrate, you'll have to like look through all the 10 different API documentation, and they might show things differently. They might have different payload, and you have to hard code them. And if something's changed, there's no way for you to know unless you come back to the website. Your application stops working, and you come to that website and take another look at their documentation. So that's the advantage of a OpenAPI compatible API. That is, everything is super neatly written in terms of documentation, and it also enables you to write documentation very easily. So if you look at Stripe API documentation, API reference, they have every endpoint documented here as well. And a lot of times it is powered, like all these endpoints, what you can put in, what you can get back. This looks similar to Reddit's API, but this is completely driven by the OpenAPI specification, so that anyone can generate such a beautiful documentation that comes free with OpenAPI. We have a message in chat, support WSDL as well. Yes. I saw that, but I actually have not used WSDL before, but it does look like it is fully supported. Where's the WSDL formats? Okay. Now, let's actually go to, there's a GitHub repo called Public APIs, and it's a collection of over 1,000 free APIs that developers can use in the cloud. Some of them are free, some of them require an API key. So let's take a look at some of them. So we have APIs for animals. If you wanna ask about cat facts, we can click on that one. Daily cat facts, and API documentation. Start developing. Oh, I don't think it's working. Oh, here's the endpoint, and then the facts. So we can actually click on that /facts, and okay, it looks like the application is down, so let's not do that. Random dog facts, that's pretty cool. Let's see if that works. Yep, that's also not working. So it looks like this public APIs collection has some outdated APIs that are out there. But from this repo, you can actually find a ton of amazing APIs that you can use. So from blockchain to calendar management to CI/CD, currency exchange, dictionary, email, and so much more. So we also had people talk about news APIs, Reddit APIs, and a ton of other APIs. But the one I was looking at that I know works is under cryptocurrency, I think. And of course, there are a lot of APIs under here. You can query for the price of Bitcoin, for example, or you can even trade crypto in real time. So for now, I'm actually going to use an API called CoinCap as an example, because this API is OpenAPI 3.1 compatible. And if you take a look at this API, it is a useful tool for real-time pricing and market activity for over 1,000 cryptocurrencies. And for all endpoints, yep. And we can sign up for an account. So let's sign up for an account real quick. Maybe I'll click sign in. Get started for free. And I will sign up for an account. Oh, cool. Let's use strong password. Why not? Create account. All right, and we're going to verify our email address real quick. So the reason for creating an account is so that we can authenticate ourselves while talking to their API, and they will be able to tell us, they'll be able to identify like who's calling their API. So I'm going to click add new API key real quick, and just like that, I got a new API key that I can use. All right, so here is the API docs for CoinCap API 3.0. And if you look down below, we have a very, very nice documentation website, right? So you have CoinCap OpenAPI, which is OpenAPI 3.0 compatible. And here is the JSON for the definition of the OpenAPI schema. And we can actually try out, like this documentation site is generated completely from the OpenAPI specification. And we can actually search and try it out, the endpoints directly on the website. So we can say, what is everyone's favorite cryptocurrency? For me, I'm just gonna put BTC as an example, but let me know in chat if there's a cryptocurrency you want to check. And I'm going to say price by symbol, BTC, and click execute. So what's very nice about the OpenAPI schema is it even gives you a very, very nice example query, like a curl that you can use in your application. And as you can see, the server has responded with a 401 unauthorized. What we then need to do is authorize ourselves. So you can see this, there's an authorize button up top here, and we can copy in our API key to authorize ourselves. And I'm going to execute one more time now that we have authorized ourselves. And just like that, we now have a successful response with the price of BTC for right now. So it's at $103,000. Went back up. Nice. So this is a documentation page that anyone can use. I'm going to copy this API docs.json into Bruno. I'm going to import that collection as well. Just want to show you like how interoperable it is with different clients and platforms. So I'm going to paste in the URL and just click import and click import. And I will create a folder called CoinCap API import. Okay, and just like that, we have CoinCap OpenAPI on the left now. And we can actually authenticate ourselves now. So the very nice thing about using Bruno is on the collection level, you can select bearer token, that's the token that we have, and we can just paste that in. I think that I need to grab the token one more time, API key from here, and paste it in. That looks right. I'm going to save. And now I can make the same requests. So you can explore all the available endpoints in any client of your choice. In this case, we're using Bruno, and select assets, price. Price is the one we used. So we can say get USD prices for a symbol, and we can provide the symbol here, ETH, and click go. So it's not going to work initially because you notice like we still need to populate the variable that's called base URL so that the Bruno client knows like what is the URL of the API. And we can do that by going to CoinCap OpenAPI, variables, and just make sure we add that base URL. And the base URL is rest.coincap.io, and then you can see this /v3. So let's make sure we have that correct. And now we can go back to our price and click go. Okay, so we got another error, API key not found. So let's take a look at the example. So the API key is right here, and I think I added it properly, but maybe not. So bearer token, API key, so authorization bearer, should be fine, but we can take a look together. Headers, let me see if it's actually passed properly. You can see the authentication, oh, token, okay, I see. So we need another variable to be defined that's called token instead of doing it that way. So let's go ahead and define a token as well with our API key, save. And let's try it one last time here. Third time is a charm. And we now have the price of Ethereum. So we have base URL set up and we have the token set up. Now all we have to do is kind of click through and actually try out all the different available endpoints, and they should all work perfectly. And we can explore the different data points that are returned. You can see we have Ethereum, supply, demand, XRP, price, VWAP, so a lot of different information that you can get for all the different crypto assets here. I won't go into too much detail of all the other endpoints. I don't know if it's interesting at all to some of you, but feel free to explore on your own if you are interested. All right. So now let's talk about make your own API compatible APIs. We just covered, just a quick recap, we're halfway through the session. What is the API we covered? We talked about what is the OpenAPI specifications, why you might use it. We showed you some examples of OpenAPI compatible APIs. And we talked about how to use it using Bruno client. Now, let me know in chat, like, have you created APIs before? What are the use cases that you built APIs for? Is it for transmitting data? Is it for interacting with some components, elements within your application? Or what else is it for? Could you tell me a little bit about some of the APIs you have created? And in the meantime, I'm going to look into creating our own API. Okay, so it sounds like we have created an OpenAI API for chat completions. Yes, that is very awesome. You can interact with OpenAI's API. And I have done exactly that as well. So I'm actually going to show you how that works. I will open up one of my previous projects, open folder. I think this one's good. And I will actually run the demo of how I created my project along with a set of APIs here. So we have someone else in chat from Tammy here. I'm building an API that takes a sentence in one language, in Mandarin. You're learning Mandarin. Congratulations. And translates it into another using AI. That is very cool. Are you also using translating in text, or are you translating it in voice? Okay. So this is the prompt that I have provided for my demo over at Hack UMass over the weekend. Create a Flask-based chatbot application with the following specification. So I gave the chatbot a little bit of a background of what the hackathon is, the technical requirements, and design elements of what the application should look like, personality, business logic, and all the different tracks that the event has. And specifically here, I am using Flask, a Flask-based chatbot application, right? So I'm actually going to change this from Flask to Fast API because Fast API provides open API specification and connection out of the box. So I'm going to search the whole application for Flask and replace it with Fast API. Yep. And then I'm going to say expected output, OpenAPI compatible, API interface, and documentation. So just like that, I have tweaked the prompt a little bit from creating a Flask-based application to Fast API-based chat application. And we're actually going to be connecting with Google Gemini AI API. And we're going to create a single-page app, responsive web interface, and we can generate project ideas from it, right? And to the right here, I'm actually using a VS Code extension called RuCode. You can see the kangaroo here. And we have connected to OpenRouter, which is currently set up with the Gemini 2.5 Flash model. So with OpenRouter, you can actually connect to tons of different LLM models, like the ones we talked about from OpenAI, not to get confused with OpenAPI. You can also connect to other providers, other vendors like Gemini 2.5 Flash. So I'm going to copy this and paste it in the chat. So this is going to give our RuCode AI agent here the most context of what we were trying to build. Hello, welcome. Accepts text at the moment, voice input in progress. Awesome, I'm glad to hear that. I highly recommend checking out 11 Labs Voice AI. They make it so easy to interact with multiple different languages in real time. Very cool project. All right, so I'm going to do this and I'm going to click go. And as you can see on the right here, we have sent our request over to Google Gemini, and it actually came back with a to-do list of everything that we need to do to create this project. So first, it's going to set up the project directories. You can see everything has been set up. The Python dependencies, it's going to create a app.py with the Fast API backend. It's going to integrate a few different endpoints. and it's going to convert Gemini responses to Markdown to display on the page, and some more front-end tasks. And lastly, it's going to start the Fast API server and expose the server. Yep. So it's chugging along, and as you can see, it has created the app.py file already, which will serve as our application's backend. This is the Fast API, and we have a few different endpoints. You can see app.get, which will return the HTML. We have a generate idea endpoint, and we're responding with the project ideas. And then we also have the chat endpoint that takes in chat messages and interacts with the users. So we can go ahead and try it out. I'm going to open up this application running locally already. Just like that. It's very, very powerful. We can select a price track, maybe best data protection, and I will select a few different price categories here and click generate idea. Okay, so this application is now fully functional. And if you look behind the scenes in the developer tab here, I'm going to click generate idea one more time. You'll see a endpoint has been called /generate idea, and we are sending the price track selections as well as the track selection, and we get back the idea, and then this is the HTML of the idea, which is very, very cool. And our front end then uses this and shows it on the page. Now I can ask it, make sure my Fast API is OpenAPI compatible. Please run the documentation server, OpenAPI documentation server, something like that. Okay, so as you can see in the chat here, our root code is now wanting to open up the /docs URL, and we can just click on it, approve. Okay, should be able to then go here and just do /docs. And just like that, you can see our API is now OpenAPI compatible. We have the root, which returns our web application. We have the generate idea endpoint that takes in some track, string, and price string. And we have chat here that takes in the message, the track, and then the prices. So that is all very, very useful stuff. And we can then actually try it out. We can click try it out here and put track as best sustainability hack, for example, and the price may be best use of Gemini API, and click execute. I'm just trying out this endpoint now. So it looks like the track name has to match, so that like we can do it here. Best sustainability hack, best use of Gemini API. And we can copy the payload over and just try it out. Best sustainability hack. Yep, that sounds good. Best use of Gemini API. Yep. Best use of Gemini API. Oh shoot, I just wiped it. Best sustainability hack. execute. Yeah, perfect. So now you can see we have the proper response that we can actually serve directly to the users. And I also wanted to just show you, like, you can do this in Bruno, like, or any client. Let's go back to Bruno, homepage, import URL. We'll do it one more time here. We've already done it for a couple other APIs. So this one, we'll call it Hackathon API. Great. Import. And now, if we go back to our fast API, we can then try out our generated idea endpoint. So first of all, as we talked about, we need to define the base URL, which is going to be our localhost 8000. And then we'll be able to, for the track, I can say best sustainability hack. For the prizes, we can do best use of Gemini API. Go. And as you can see, it is working here as well. So we have just made our application OpenAPI compatible. What's very nice about Fast API is if we look at their documentation, and then specifically we'll do OpenAPI. You can see that Fast API has great information on how you can further customize OpenAPI documentation that's generated. It comes free. It comes like by default. And if you don't like some of the things that we see here, like maybe we want a different title, maybe we want to give it some more examples, we can follow the Fast API guide here to make it even prettier. Okay. Do we have any questions in chat? Or if you're on what is it called? If you like what you see, give me a thumbs up in chat or just type 1. This is very, very powerful. As I mentioned, we just actually went ahead and made our API OpenAPI compatible in just a couple lines. And we generated a beautiful OpenAPI documentation. So thank you so much, y'all, for giving me some feedback in chat, and I'm glad that you found this a little bit helpful. And we can further make this even better, right? So as you can see, like when we did track, it's just string. And when we sent a malformed string, like random string, the server just does not like that. It crashes. Execute. Yeah, it crashes with internal server error because these prizes and tracks were not available in our application. And you can see here. So I can then create a new task with root code, improve OpenAPI specification to include improve to show a title, description, and make sure all the endpoints inputs are validated with enum, so only the are exposed via OpenAPI endpoint input options are exposed via OpenAPI and validated instead of internal server error. So we'll do something like that. I kind of just rumbled a little bit. So let's see what happens. Gemini was able to kind of understand what I want and break it down into a to-do list, add a title and description, ensure all the endpoint inputs are exposed and validated, and test the changes. Okay, perfect. So in just a couple of seconds, it's able to figure out how to add a title and description, even give me a very nice description summary, and it is now modifying some of our inputs of our endpoints. Let's take a look at everything it's done. So you can see it has created a model, base model, and it even gave it a description of the field. So select hackathon track, and here's an example. And it gave you the example of prizes as well. So let's take a look at and see what changed. We can come back here to our documentation and refresh. And just like that, we now have a beautiful title and a description of our API. And if we look at the generate idea endpoint here, we now have some examples: best software hack, best use of Gemini API as an example. So this is very, very helpful for someone looking at our API the first time. If you just put string, they probably don't know, like, what are you trying to get? What are you trying to accept, right? And we also have the schema here, and we have track string and prices string. So that's still no good. That's still no good because it can't be any string. We only support a few different tracks and a few different prices, right? So I'm going to say, please fix the proper enum for the available tracks and price categories. Also, make the title specific to hack UMass because all the prizes and categories are specific to hack UMass. All right, I have a question in chat. I see you're using Rue code. I have been using Copilot, but we'll give Rue a try. Both of them are really, really good. I'm using Rue because I have some Google Gemini API credits I'm using, but with GitHub Copilot, let's actually switch over to GitHub Copilot after this, and we can use both. Thank you for your comments. GitHub Copilot. So we have some fans of GitHub Copilot, I see. Okay, so let's see what the changes Rue code has made. So it has actually made enums for all the different tracks. I don't know if this is the right way to do it. So you can see a enum MLH price category has been created, and a hack UMass track has also been created. So these two types have been created. Now let's look back at our documentation here. Generate idea. You see the title is changed to hack UMass AI idea generator, which is really cool. And schema, yeah, so it looks like the enum was added. You can see now, like, a user of the endpoint, they know exactly what our API is looking to accept. So here are the 10 different hack UMass tracks, as well as all the available MLH price categories that can be accepted, and even with examples. Same with the chat endpoint. Tell me more about the idea. Best, so this is very similar to the generate idea endpoint, except it accepts some additional messages so that the AI can help answer those messages, those questions. All right. And we talked about schemas early on. Schemas are reusable parts of the OpenAPI schema specification. And here you have a MLH price category schema and hack UMass track schema. and they can be reused. And we have a few other ones, as you can see here. Okay, so I'm thinking the next step of this workshop is I want to build an application that anyone can interact with publicly. I want to build a game. We have about 45 minutes left, and then we'll jump into our next session afterwards. Just a quick preview of the next session. We can probably do the first step in this session. We're actually going to be creating an MCP server using OpenAPI. That's one of the powers of using OpenAPI. And we can create a trivia app and even create an AI bot to connect with our OpenAPI specification and connect with our trivia app. So some of you have talked about GitHub Copilot, right? Let's actually open up a new window and switch over to GitHub Copilot. So this is GitHub Copilot right now. So for those of you, oh, it's 11:11 on 11:11. Yes, wow, I see it. I missed it by like 30 seconds, but thank you for that comment. I like it. Let's now create a new project. I want to build a trivia game, and everybody can interact with it. So let's do it together. And for this one, I'm going to use SpecKit. Has any of you heard of SpecKit? Give me a 1 if you have heard of SpecKit. Give me a 0 if you haven't in chat. This is very, very powerful stuff. And some of you have heard of it. Some of you haven't. But you came to the right place. Even if you have heard of it, we are going to be using a lot of these different features and actually trying it out live. So SpecKit is an open source toolkit that allows you to actually build your high quality project. So as you have seen in my last project I just showed, I basically created a 62-line prompt that had everything I needed to build in this application. But that's not very feasible if you're kind of starting out with the idea. Like, you might not think of everything, right? Of course, I have fine-tuned this prompt so many times and tweaked it to do just what I needed. But you might not have all the different ideas or the time to really go through and tweak this prompt. And that's where SpecKit comes in. You can give it an idea, and it will help you flesh out your idea more into a plan. It will poke holes in your plan, so that you can make sure you cover all the different scenarios. And then at the end, it will generate tasks for you to implement, or for the AI agent to implement the application. So with SpecKit, it really gives you a lot more control of the AI software development workflow. So you can read more about SpecKit at this link, which I'm going to be sharing in chat. But for now, we're going to go ahead and install it and try it out in our project. So I'm going to use this command to install. Maybe I'll open up a new window here, and I will just run that to install the application, the SpecKit command line tool. Okay, has been installed, and now I can initiate a project. I will go to downloads folder and specify init trivia, GHW trivia. And here you can pick your AI assistant. It supports a ton of different assistants, and for the demo, I will use GitHub Copilot. And since I am on macOS, I will use Shell instead of PowerShell. And just like that, it is done, and we can actually open up the project now. So we can do code, GHW trivia, And this is going to open a new VS Code window with our project. So the first part of this project, we'll have to follow the spec kit flow, right? So the first step, as you can see in the window here, is spec kit constitution. And I'm just hovering over here. This creates in the project constitution, ensuring all dependent templates stay in sync. So we can also look at their documentation here. So here's the first step: establish project principles. We're going to copy this, create principles. We'll create a set of principles. You can always change it later. It doesn't really matter. So create principles focused on code quality, test standards. For the purpose of the demo, like in a real world project, of course you would want testing, but for the demo, I will do not include any testing. For the demo, I guess just do not include any testing for this project, as it's for a live demo, for a quick live demo. User experience, consistency, and performance requirements. I don't care about performance either, just for now, but I do care about user experience. So I'm establishing a set of project principles now using the spec kit command. And you can read through the documentation and even watch the video. It's really, really informative, but we're just gonna go through and follow the steps in the documentation to create our trivia app. Specifically the trivia API, so we'll create the API first. All right, it's now trying to run some commands to establish our project principles. Okay, so it is now creating. I'm going to use Claude Haiku 4.5. I think it's a good balance of performance and speed. It's one of the latest premium models. So those of you who use Copilot for your day-to-day workflow, like what are the models that you use? So here I have access to these models. Like what's your go-to and why? What works best for y'all? And as you can see, we're just waiting for the AI to come back and actually work on our constitution. Okay, wonderful. It's created a new file under specify memory constitution. Actually, I was thinking about building this project in the cloud so that, yeah, I might move that afterwards. But for now, we'll build it locally on my computer. Do y'all just use the auto model in GitHub Copilot? Oh, you use Haiku as well. How's your experience with Haiku versus Sonnet 4.5, for example? Faster, yes. That is very important. Faster. I didn't switch to Haiku before I ran this command, so it's a little bit slow. I don't know which model is being used right now, but it is a little bit slow. So I'm hoping maybe I can get a quick start of the next spec command, which is spec specify. So you can build an application. So this is describe what you want to build, And let me go ahead and start typing. That's probably gonna save some time here. Specify build a trivia app API using fast API. Focus on OpenAPI specifications to make sure all endpoints are well documented. Actually, that should be in the Constitution, right? It sounds like it should be in the Constitution. Like all documents must be focused on all APIs must be OpenAPI compliant, compatible. Focus on to make sure all the endpoints are well documented, as well as the OpenAPI title, descriptions, examples. So I need to amend my constitution to make sure any endpoints that we create have the proper OpenAPI definitions. Okay, so the constitution has been created. Use fast API as it comes with OpenAPI out of the box. Okay, I'm amending my constitution now. Let's see if Haiku 4.5 is a little bit faster. Tammy says, I use Haiku too, has a much larger context window. Yeah, it seems to be working very well for me as well. And it looks pretty fast. It's already made some changes. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, now I'm going to start my specify command. So what do we want in this project, right? So let's just kind of create a new blank file for now. How do I create a new? I don't want to. Okay. Spec. For example. Okay, so we can just kind of write anything we want here. So trivia app API. Let's create API first. So first, like, what are some things that we need, right? Let's think about it. Admin should be able to start a new trivia question. Session. Okay. Admin user should be able to retrieve the current trivia question. Users should be able to submit answer to the current trivia question. Admin should be able to end the current trivia question. Users should be able to view a leaderboard of top scores. Yep. Does anybody have any suggestions on what else we need with the trivia game API? So admin will be able to start a new trivia question session. Users should be able to retrieve the current trivia question along with the question. Users should be able to retrieve a list of attempts. All attempts. That includes time, daytime, username, correctness, correct, incorrect of the answer. User should be able to submit the answer to the current trivia question. Admin should be able to end the current trivia question session. You should be able to view a leaderboard of top scores. Filter by category. Yeah, that is a great option as well. So we may add that at the end if we have time. So for now, like there will just be trivia. The admin will publish a question. Users can read the question, what is the current question, and answer it. To submit answer to the current trivia question, users can, I guess, what is it? With their username and get back correct, incorrect feedback. If correct, their score will be incremented by 1. That sounds great. And for future attempts for that should be rejected. Yep. So if it's incorrect, you can keep answering. And then answer should be case insensitive, so that it will be a little bit easier for us to check. Okay, admin should be able to end the current trivia session at and the answer shall be revealed. So I'm kind of combining like API definition and then also the application logic, which is not good. But don't worry, since we have our AI with us, we're just gonna pump it into Haiku and see what it says. All right. So I'm going to keep all the changes and say, I'm just gonna close everything, start fresh, and say spec hit, specify, and then send. So this is going to look at all our requirements here. I think we're also missing things like retrieve a list of past questions. So we'll create that together right after. So it's asking me to do a lot of things here. Yeah, that's one feature I really like about root code is you can auto accept, like auto approve a lot of the commands. Makes it a little bit easier. I think you can also do that with Copilot, but it might be a little bit more restrictive, which might be a good thing. All right, so you can see now like a new feature branch has been created. It's called 001 Trivia API, right? 001 Trivia API. And Haiku has created a folder under specs called 001 Trivia spec. Okay, it's still working through. So Trivia API, this is my description that I posted it earlier. And it is now analyzing it and kind of creating some user scenarios. I just made some user stories here, which is very cool. Admin starts trivia session. Visual design. User views the current question. Yep. Get current question endpoint. Visual design. Yep. So one thing I wanted to correct it is like I want to just focus on API specifically and no UI. So I might need to give it a little bit more help there. Do not include any UI elements in the spec. It will be API only for this feature. This feature will be API only. And let's keep going. User views all attempt history. Yep. User views leaderboard. Yep. That's perfect. Trivia session. Okay, that's fine. End session and Rio's answer. So I need to make this correction. So the leaderboard should be across all trivia sessions. Yes. Across all trivia sessions. Okay, so let's now ask it to fix what I wanted to mention here. Okay, and I also mentioned leaderboard should display top users of all time, top scores of all, not just the current session. Okay, what else do we have? So here are some questions that the Haiku coding agent has returned to us. What happens when multiple users submit answers simultaneously? Okay, that's fine. How does the system handle subversion without username reject? Oh, okay, so it looks like it's already figured out all the different edge cases that we need to handle. That's wonderful. Okay. Okay, let me just add a couple other things. Admin authentication will be using an API key hard-coded in .env for now, and then assumptions, that's correct. Score persistence, yeah, that's correct. Username format, that's correct. API only, yes. Concurrent submission, that looks good. Stores, data storage. So when you build an application, like where do you choose to store your data? So if you're building a trivia app like this, like where would you store the data? The data includes all the trivia questions, the users, the leaderboard, and things like that. Any suggestions? I might just, for data storage, use, I might just use SQLite. Okay. Sounds good. So as you can see, like Haiku has come up with a very, very thorough spec and the requirements, and we can review it before implementing anything. It literally has everything that we need to know about this, right? About this project. It told us about the assumptions it made, and we kind of agreed to some assumptions and we disagreed with some assumptions. So let's take a look at, did it make changes to requirements? Not yet. Okay, specifications, it looks all good. Our job now is just to really understand all the different endpoints and make sure they do what we want. So here's the first endpoint, for example. Maybe I should reopen this in preview mode. So this is the API contract that was generated. The first endpoint, admin, will initiate a trivia session, and it will give two things, a question and a correct answer. Okay, wonderful. And here are some example errors. And then endpoint 2 is a public endpoint, so anyone can retrieve the current trivia question. So this includes the status. What is this? Oh, what is the status? Returns the question of the current active trivia session. After session ends, an answer is included. Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. And then the third endpoint is any user can submit an answer to the current question. So you can put in your username and then answer to submit your question. Fourth is get all the answer attempts for a given trivia question. So attempts should actually exclude the answer so that if someone answers it correctly, we don't want it to be exposed publicly. So let's fix that. Okay, I'll keep going. Believe me, reading this spec now than later is, it's so much more helpful. Spending a little bit of time now, it will get you to like 99% of the way there, avoiding any issues. A rework is going to take way longer. Get leaderboard, retrieve ranked leaderboard. Yep, so we can have the leaderboard scores. That's excellent. Trivia end. Okay, I think that all looks good. Keep. Did it also added everything, and you can see a nice thing about SpecKit is it keeps a history of everything that's done, right? So we added the initial feature of it, and then we made some updates to improve the admin authentication. We're now using SQLite for storage, clarifying that, and then also fixed an endpoint to no longer retrieve the submitted answers. So with that, let's start with implementation. So let me go ahead and commit everything here as well. By the way, if you're using Copilot, like this button is like a magic button. I really, really love it. It's called generate commit message. Okay. And now if we go back to SpecKit and look through some of the different options here, we did the constitution, we did the specify. Now we need to create a technical implementation plan and break it down into tasks. So let's go ahead and start with the plan. Okay, it is now creating a technical implementation plan. I know some of the work has already been done in spec as part of the API contract, but this step is going to give us more technical details of how the implementation is going to work. So you can see on the right, based on the spec, we decided we're going to use Python. We're going to use FastAPI, SQLite. Storage is going to be SQLite. Project is going to be API only. And admin is going to authenticate. So everything sounds great. We'll spend the next 10 minutes to kind of get as far as we can on this project. And in the AI Meets OpenAPI session, we will wrap up this project and we will actually show you some other use cases of AI when it comes to OpenAPI. So now it's generating a research markdown file to try to decide on some of the topics that we have been talking about. So fast API. What's really cool here is like maybe a year later, you come back to a project and you're like, oh, why did we choose fast API? And you can actually look in the stock and it says it's because fast API has automatic OpenAPI 3.0 schema generation. It also talks about like why we're not using some of the other frameworks. So Django, very heavy. Flask requires manual OpenAPI integration, whereas FastAPI has it out of the box. So why SQLite? So there are some different other options that we can use. Pydantic models for schema validation and definition. That sounds really cool. Concurrency handling using async IO. That sounds good. API key via environment variable. That looks good too. Timestamp format looks good as well. Answer matching, case insensitive. Leaderboard type breaking. So if some of you have the same score, the one that reached the highest score earlier will win. Okay, everything's good. Everything's good. So now it is creating a data model contract. So it's literally having Copilot with SpecKit is like having a whole dev team behind your back. So here it is creating all the necessary data models that will be used across the application. It's designing the SQL database relationships here. Quick start. Some instructions on how we would run this application once it's built. Plan is a checklist of everything that will be generated. So you can see the whole like file system, repository, folder structure has been generated. Okay, everything's complete. Plan is good. Here is a report. Data model definition, implementation. Yep, everything's good to go. I'm going to commit this as well. Here is the overview that we can look at. Now we can move over to the tasks phase. So I'll open a new chat here. You can see the step after plan is called tasks. So this is going to generate actionable tasks for the AI agent to complete. Very similar to root code where you see a to-do list on the right. In this case, it will actually create tasks in a markdown file in the repository. And as the AI agent completes all the work, oh, cool. So you can see an OpenAPI YAML schema has already been generated based on our documentation. So that's really cool. But we'll wait for the tasks to be complete. Okay, while it's generating the tasks, I'm just going to go back to our slide deck a little bit here. If you have any questions whatsoever, this is a great time to ask. I would love to answer any questions about OpenAPI, about AI coding in general using SpecKit, how you can use OpenAPI to enhance your project, and anything about Global Hack Week and MLH as well. So feel free to drop any questions you have. And I'll do a quick key takeaways in the meantime. So during this session, we first learned about APIs with an analogy. We learned about different APIs that are available out there. Some of you have used News API, Google Maps API, Gemini API, OpenAI API, etc. We then learned about OpenAPI, how it's a global standard for exposing your API, creating documentation, make it easier for developers to interact with any APIs that are OpenAPI compatible. We also looked at creating our own project and adding OpenAPI specifications on top of it, which is the Hack UMass Hackathon Advisor Strategist app. And then at the end, we're now using the power of GitHub SpecKit to create a trivia app. And we defined all the necessary endpoints that are going to be documented using OpenAPI. So in the session that follows the Today in Global Hack Week, we're actually going to wrap up that project and have everybody try to connect to the APIs directly and submit your trivia answers, which is going to be very cool. And then we're also going to be talking about MCP servers, how OpenAPI can make it so easy to create an MCP server for your AI agents to interact directly. So maybe answering the trivia questions directly. All right, and if you have any feedback for this session or any other Global Hack Week sessions, please head over to mlh.link/GHW feedback and just let me know some of the things you learned this session, or if you have any suggestions on how we can make it even better for you and more useful for you. We have a message in chat. How are you using SpecKit? So I am using SpecKit to build this app right now, as we can see. SpecKit really makes it very easy for you to control what the AI does. You can, of course, use Copilot directly in your application, and that works a lot of the time. But SpecKit just makes it so much easier to create tasks and plan before actually writing code, and you have to go in and fix things, and it's not doing the things that you want, and it's making assumptions that you don't agree with. So that's what SpecKit is here to help with. And it really helps to have all the different files you can see here, from the original spec, the research topics, and the decision-making process of using different technical technologies in the application, planning ahead of the folder structure, and so all these are paper trails, right? So a year later, you come back to the application, you can easily answer the question, okay, why did we use SQLite, for example? Why did we use Fast API? You can look in this 001 Trivia API spec and see exactly that. That was great learning. Okay, I'm so glad that you are here with us to the end and learned a lot this session. And we'll learn even more at the next session. Nice, we'll try this, thank you. Of course, you are so very welcome. So make sure when you're working with SpecKit, you first watch the video. So they have a amazing YouTube video. It is 40 minutes long, just a disclaimer, but it is well worth it. You'll get so much out of it. So definitely check out this video overview. And what's more is it supports all these different AI agents. So I used GitHub Copilot, but it even supports Code, for example, right? that I was using previously. Some of you might be using Gemini command line, Claude Code, Windsurf, Cursor, and all the good stuff. Okay, thank you so much for joining and sticking with us. Coming up next, well, before then, I just want to show you the tasks have been generated. So GitHub Copilot, with the help of Claude Haiku 4.5, has come back with all the different tasks that we'll be doing by phase. From setting up the project to here, let's just look at the overview here, to creating the admin start session, user views question, user submits answer. So all the different features have been broken down into tasks that AI can focus on one at a time. So that it doesn't have to do everything at once, which can be overwhelming and could lead to errors, right? So we're doing it one at a time. And up next, let's take a look at our Global Hack Week schedule. Intro to OpenAPI is the last session for day 4, but shortly after, in 2.5 minutes, we will have our wonderful Varshini here with us with the Today in Global Hack Week day 5 stream. She's going to talk about everything that happened on day 4 and all the amazing sessions and activities that we have planned for you on day 5. And right after that, in an hour from now, I will be streaming AI Meets OpenAPI, where we'll talk more about the trivia app. Let's just go back to our slide here. Streamline AI coding, how we can use OpenAPI with a MCP server. And we're going to wrap up our trivia app and maybe even create a web front end for this app using our API. And if time permits, we can even create an AI bot that answers the trivia questions automatically using the OpenAPI that comes with our trivia API and MCP servers. So I hope you're interested, and at the end, I'm also going to be giving out a surprise prize for the #1 person on the leaderboard. So stay tuned for that. With that, I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. But stick around if you don't have anything going on. Maybe grab a lunch or something. But come back to my session at 1 p.m. Eastern. With that, thank you so much. Take care, everybody.